So what's up guys, welcome back to another video, and today we are going to be reacting to how it's actually made ice cream. So yeah, we're gonna see how ice cream is made, and yeah. I already know how it's made series, and this is
To make
how
ice
it's
cream
actually
treats, you first have to make the ice cream.
made. What? This is not, I thought it's just gonna be normal, but...
It all begins with
Hi.
liquid ice. The factory stores it in refrigerated silos set just a few degrees above freezing.
Okay.
The silos feed a high-speed mixer, which combines the ice with its other primary ingredient, dried cream.
Okay.
The only other ingredient is sugar. This much sugar is the amount used for just one ice cream.
Okay.
After about 3 minutes of mixing, this batch has been deemed a failure and is sealed away for eternity, protecting all of mankind. This worker here has a death wish. Successful batches of ice cream are heated and stirred to kill bacteria until they become roughly 70% sanitized, indicating they're now fit for human consumption. Concentrated vanilla flavoring is added. The concoction is chilled, whipped for about 15 seconds, and the finished product is lovingly dumped onto our big metal slab because our production crew was too stupid to remember to get a bowl. Ice cream sandwich wafers are made out of chocolate cake ingredients, and were originally meant to be an edible stand-in for playing cards. Thanks to this design, the ice cream is placed between wafers using a shuffling machine, which, once decommissioned, will be integrated into the back room of many Las Vegas casinos. The sandwiches move on to be wrapped, but first they delicately scrape.
Something happened. Well, I gotta rewind it. Okay.
The sandwiches move on to be wrapped, but first they delicately scrape bits from an incredibly rusty and unclean packaging machine, enhancing their flavor.
Okay, I gotta see more from this.
Finally, you may be surprised to hear this, but the ice cream sandwiches are loaded into boxes. On another line, ice cream cone production is underway. A feeder drops pre-wrapped sugar cones into a holder on a conveyor belt.
I never saw this soap bar one, so let's watch the soap bar one.
Hot grease is added to the inside of the cone to help lubricate the ice cream once it makes it to the entrance. Next, nozzles squirt out the ice cream. Half the production line receives chocolate ice cream, and the other half receives Elmer's glue. Part of the fun is finding out which flavor you get.
Yeah, no one talks.
Now for the most arousing part of the production line, an injection of hot liquid caramel.
Yeah, I already saw this before, but...
I stand corrected. The actual most arousing part of the production is the chocolate-flavored liquid topping squirter.
Looks like poop.
Then the finishing touch, the mystery ingredient, sponsored by Purina.
What? Rabbit poop? Oh, that's it. I never saw soap bars.
Talk about raising the bar. The widespread use of soap has elevated our standards. Soap fights grime, and it battles dangerous pathogens. It makes the world a more hygienic place. So you could say, this product's reputation is squeaky clean.
Oh my god.
Soap bars come in a variety of flavors, from toxic to non-toxic, and are one of the world's most popular luxury items.
Okay.
It all starts in an active volcano, where a pipe has been installed to pour clear Gatorade into the molten lava, increasing its electrolyte levels. Once the lava is fully supercharged, it's shipped off to the wonderful peaks of Aspen, Colorado, where it is cooled and chemical reactions turn it into soap.
How does that work?
The soap is money shot all over a big metal roll where it quickly solidifies and is cut into ribbons by a large industrial blade. The ribbons plunge into a hopper, where an auger moves the sauerkraut, the soap, down a chute.
What?
Hey Steve, I think we gotta do another one. I said sauerkraut again. The soap ribbons fall through a chute, tasting a bit of sweet, sweet freedom before immediately being pulverized by two industrial rollers.
Jeez, man. Don't mind the background noise, it's nothing.
This squash soap product is cut by another steel blade, creating denser soap ribbons. Exciting! The soap is pushed by yet another auger, and is pushed through an extruder called a noodle plate, which forms it into soap noodles. Don't worry folks, only about 17 more augers and shapes to go before we actually have some soap bars. The soap noodles are poured into an industry standard skee ball hole, which dumps them into a mixer. Workers add concentrated soap to help clean the soap. Terrifying steel blades stir up the soap to get consistent coloring. More Gatorade is eventually added to the soap as it's probably dying of thirst by now. When the soap is ready, a trapdoor opens to reveal, surprise, another goddamn noodle plate. The soap is formed into individual bricks where it moves on to the next stage. A mechanical arm pushes the soap bars through an oval plate, because just like in real life, sometimes you've got to force a square peg into a round hole. I hope your promotion was worth it, Janet. Steel plates shape, stamp, and sort the soap cylinders, shipping their supple, slippery, soft bodies to be sensationally sent skyward. See? The oval soap bars are wrapped, sealed, and boxed, and yet no matter how many you buy, you'll never be clean. The rubber band was invented in England in the middle of the 19th century. The key to its success, of course, is flexibility. A rubber band can be stretched around items of various shapes and sizes to hold them together. So in the rubber band industry, the possibilities for expansion are numerous. Rubber bands come in handy for a whole bunch of things, whether it's acting as a binding, a snack food, or a weapon. Production of rubber bands starts with natural rubber, made from the sap of rubber trees. Natural rubber has more elasticity than the synthetic kind, which doesn't matter because synthetic rubber is cheaper, so it will always be used in production. A worker pours rubber processing oil into a kneader machine because it's so damn needy. He adds mustard and sugar for taste, while Kyle in the background looks for his lost surfboard. He forgets to unwrap the rubber's packaging as he feeds several pounds of it into the kneader machine. The rubber is, of course, naturally elastic and bounces around like an unruly 7-year-old. This process generates heat, which both softens the rubber and explains why there was a random shirtless man in the previous shot. The kneader spits out giant dough chunks. The rubber is now depressing to look at, so it's thrown into a smoothing machine until it transforms into a much more optimistic shape. This process is purely done to reduce suicide rates among rubber factory workers. Then, the rubber is rolled into big twisty tubes, entirely undoing the previous rolling processes. This may seem bizarre, but rubber is actually manufactured in reverse, as demonstrated here, with the rubber being retrofitted back into the previously mentioned rubber trees. Next, these aluminum poles have arrived from a nearby factory and require a rubber coating before being sent out to distribution. This is because the poles are smart and know when it comes to the market to always wrap it before they tap it. As for the white powder, don't ask. The tubes are loaded into a torpedo bay both for overnight curing and to protect the factory in case of thieves. Workers peel the rubber off the poles and then give them a milk bath to infuse them with calcium. Without calcium, the rubber would be too brittle for daily use, since calcium helps build strong bones. The tubes are fed into a cutting machine and... oh, looks like one of those aluminum poles from earlier had a pretty good night.
What?
With this system, the factory can produce 500,000 rubber bands per hour, and yet still somehow can't manage to bring my wife back to me.
What? Is your wife okay, man? My dad decided to mow the lawn at this time.
After inspection, all that's left is the credits, which signify the end of the episode, and are my cue to stop talking.
Wow, I never knew that. That is a dog in my
Claro,
pocket.
claro, man.
There is no way that's
Hombres, this is nice, yo.
this is
Yeah.
nice. Looks the same.
The lead inside a pencil isn't actually
remember
lead,
this.
it's mostly graphite, which was discovered in England in the
But I
mid-1500s,
guess
giving
not.
birth to the pencil industry. In 1795, a French chemist discovered a new type of pencil lead made from graphite powder and clay fired in an oven, making it possible to produce leads of different hardness. For a pencil's body, you need wood soft enough to sharpen that comes in a variety of colors, like blue and green. This German pencil factory uses pencil wood from California. The wood is about 5 millimeters thick and arrives pre-cut in slats of 7 inches by 18 degrees. One by one, the slats pass under a giant fan, which precisely splinters the wood through directed airflow. The next machine fills the grooves with rubber to give the pencils more bounce and resistance. Most pencils built to factory standards can bounce about 2 feet into the air. Only half of the slats prepped move to a conveyor belt to process them into pencils. The rest of the slats are recycled for other wood products, such as chairs, pencils, and rulers.
Wait, what?
The lead in all pencils is made of pure lead, but some pencils may use clay additives to save costs. These pencils are organic and use 100% lead, meaning they cost $9 per pencil. The lead laying machine is probably the most satisfying thing you will ever see. On another conveyor belt, completely unrelated slats are prepared and flipped upside down for the pencil making process. The new slats slide perfectly on top of the slats fitted with the graphite, resulting in the world's most inedible s'more. If you've ever heard your school teacher say, "Take out your writing sandwiches," you now know what she was talking about. Now, the slats are compressed with over 1 ton of pressure, making sure that, for the graphite, there is no escape. After that, the industrial fan is turned back on, which presses the pencils hard enough to separate them, and blows away any defective pencils that don't contain enough rubber for added resistance. The pencils are then pushed through a slot underneath a brush to make it look like a man with a thick mustache is vomiting them up, much to the delight of the factory workers. A worker pulls a pencil off the line and manually sharpens it, just in time for an engineer to crush the newly sharpened pencil under a hydraulic press to help the factory determine how automation will slowly crush the job market. This press here replaces over 36 potential jobs every day. Now it's time to dress that naked wood. One at a time, the pencils are shot through a coating of yellow paint to help camouflage them against school buses. This is in the hopes of tricking children that they won't have any writing assignments at school, since they won't see any nearby writing instruments. This specific batch of pencils are painted with a black stripe to diffuse their camouflage, because these pencils are for training purposes only. Each student's name is then metallically pressed onto each pencil, as is common in the Western world for each student to be assigned 1 pencil once they start school. Losing this pencil may result in expulsion. Eventually, the erasers are put on as a sort of tiny hat for pencils. This was put in place in the early 1910s, where major city populations lobbied Congress, upset that the pencils didn't have to wear hats like the businessmen who used them. Even though hat wearing fell out of fashion in the 1930s, the pencils kept theirs as a tradition. European-style pencils have a painted cap instead of an eraser. These caps are usually white, but are often red in communist countries, for obvious reasons. Lastly, the pencils roll across a grinding wheel to sharpen them. Notice how this machine sharpens many pencils at a time, whereas a factory worker could only sharpen 1. I, for one, welcome our new robot overlords, and long for the day that their cold, calculating embrace finally rids the world of pencils, since they're just a flimsy device of communication needed by humans, taking several minutes to perform even the most rudimentary of calculus. The meatbags that walk this earth have their days numbered, and they're being counted down by a digital clock. And wait, what's going on?
Pencils can come in all sorts of patterns and colors, but the end result is the same. To help completely normal, functional humans like us in our daily activities such as writing, feeling emotions, and breathing. Ha, ha, ha. Thank you, pencils.
He was a robot the whole time.